dark haze. Ladies of the night with eyes of red, vampires in the alleys where good men dread, wolfmen howling beneath the pale moon. But justice is coming and coming soon. From saloons to graveyards where evil sleeps, they walk among us, secrets they keep, nightmare hunters with souls ablaze, cleaning up this town through the dark haze. Cryptids themselves, yet they stand tall against the darkness, answering the call for every lost soul, every whispered prayer. They fight for the light in the midnight air. From saloons to graveyards where evil sleeps, they walk among us, secrets they keep, nightmare hunters with souls ablaze, cleaning up this town through the dark haze. The night is young, the hunt begins. For against the darkness where hope never ends.
Good evening, folks, and thank you guys for joining us on another episode of the Nightmare Hunters podcast. I'm D.A. Roberts, and my co-host tonight is Robbie Jed Rains, coming to us from the mountains of South Carolina. Brother, how you doing tonight?
Doing good, brother. How are you?
I'm doing, as Doc could say, finer than frog hair split four ways. Unfortunately, Doc won't be with us tonight. He is a little under the weather. He's still fighting a pretty nasty cold. And Steve had to work tonight, but hopefully we'll have both of them with us come Saturday night. But in between,
under the weather though.
Yeah, a little true. He's a little under the weather, just a little feller. But keep those boys in your prayers. So Steve is safe at the hospital and Doc recovers quickly. And Miss Angie, Doc's wife's been under the weather as well. So keep them all in your prayers. And hopefully they'll be back with us on Saturday night. But I still think we're going to have a really good show for you guys tonight. Big shout out and howdy to everybody. We've already got a whole bunch of people in the chat. Chat is just flying. I was trying to say hi to everybody while the credits were rolling, but I know I've missed a whole bunch of people. So if I didn't say hi to you specifically, hello everybody, and thank you guys for being with us. Tonight we are going to kind of go back where this kind of started for me and Steve. I'd already been looking into cryptids for years. But some of you will be familiar with this story and some will not. Because the last time we talked about this was well before we had 10,000 subscribers and certainly before we were with on X Network. So a lot of you folks, this is going to be new territory. And for those of you who have heard our Joe Bald stuff before, stick around because there's a lot more to go with it. Not only are we going to be corroborating what happened to us by what happened to some other people, but some stories have come to light that I think you guys are going to like. So as we get started, we're gonna like I said, we're gonna be talking about the Joe Bald incident. We'll even be showing the video and a lot of the isolated stills. But the night we filmed at Joe Joe Bald, nothing really felt out of place. There was no sense of dread. It wasn't quiet. You could hear all the bugs and everything. We didn't feel like we were being watched. It was back in the fall of 2018. The air was cool. The leaves were dry. It was kind of the night where the woods just felt empty, but in a peaceful way. I mean, that would have been that night we were down there with me and Steve and my wife and his wife. We could have just pulled up a couple of chairs and fished. It was that kind of comfortable of a night, which is unusual for Joe Bald, as Robbie can tell you. Steve and I were both armed. I was still a cop at the time. So I've been in worse places. I've been in much darker, rougher places, definitely more dangerous places than that night at Joe Bald felt. Hell, Joe Bald didn't even register as a threat that night. We walked around the campground, talking, laughing, filmed the bridge like it was just another piece of forgotten Ozarks history. Steve even stepped off the trail at one point to take a leak on a tree. And that tree would become very significant not long after that. Just a normal night in the woods. I mean, it wasn't anything. We didn't see anything. We didn't hear anything. We didn't feel anything out of place. And afterwards, we wrapped up, jumped back in the van because my wife and Steve's wife never got out of the van. After we finished filming, we jumped in the van. We drove into Branson and had dinner. We went to Outback Steakhouse in Branson, had a good dinner. Didn't think anything more of it. Footage set for about a year. We posted it to the YouTube channel. Kind of forgot about it. All the footage that we were shooting. Thank you, Moonchild. Appreciate you sponsoring the channel. But the only reason we were there shooting footage in the first place is I was shooting background footage for promotion for the release of Lakeview Man, which would come out just about a year later. At that time, I was still researching Lakeview Man. I was still putting in locations. But that night was there. We were just shooting a promo just to show people what Joe Bald was for Lakeview Man. We had no plans of going down there to find any kind of cryptid. We weren't down there looking to get into anything. We were just shooting some basically B-roll footage. And it sat. We put it on the YouTube channel, and it sat there for about a year. We'd kind of forgotten about it. Then one night I was on another podcast, and we were talking about the books. And they said, "Do you got any promo videos?" I said, "Oh yeah, sure, absolutely." And I sent him the video, the Joe Bald video, and we played it on the show while we were talking about my books. And a fella in the chat, he goes, "Hey, I hate to interrupt you guys, but something just moved behind you." And I'm like, no, I've watched that video about 1,000 times. There's nothing moving on that video. I've watched it. And he goes, "No, I'm telling you," and he even gave us a time index. He said, "I'm telling you, at this time index, I think it was 32 seconds or something like that, something behind that tree moved." So we paused the show. We paused it right there. We stopped talking about the books, and we scrolled back on the footage right there on the show, and we watched it again. And guess what? Something did move. It was so fine in the background because we were just shooting it. Hell, all we did, well, it wasn't this same phone, but it was shot on an iPhone 3. Robert, thank you, man. Thank you for supporting the channel. That little video was shot on an old iPhone 3. So, it wasn't super high resolution. And again, we did not go out there with the plans of doing anything but shooting a promo video, which we did. So we watched the video again, and there it was. We saw movement, but it was so fine detail, we didn't even really notice it. I mean, you could see it, but you could see something move, but you couldn't tell what it was. It kind of looked like a head. So, and ironically, it was sticking out from behind the exact tree that Steve had peed on not 10 minutes before that. Probably not even that long, maybe 5. So I send this video off to a couple guys I know who do video analysis and have them go over it and start seeing what they can find, what they can pull out. In the meantime, thank you for the super chat there, Robert. Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Robert.
So, meantime, me and Steve and another buddy of mine named Josh went back out to Joe Bald. And we went to the exact tree because we knew right where it was because of the position of the bridge. We just looked at the video on the phone, found the exact tree, and went straight to it. Not only were there no branches low enough where it could have been something sitting on a branch looking at us. There was no trees close enough behind it that it could have been in that tree. The only other tree that was close to it was like this little scrub pine that sat low to the ground. So we compared the tree with the video and marked out about the same spot on the tree, because you could kind of tell from a little bump on the tree where this head was. So we measured that spot to where about that we thought the head was, and it was between 9 and 9.5 feet off the ground. And in one frame, it looks like it's got its hand on the tree. And although we can't say for sure, we did see faint claw marks on the tree right in that exact spot. Oh, thank you, Carol. Appreciate it. Thank you for sponsoring the channel. But we saw faint claw marks. Now, that could have been anything. We didn't see it actually make them.
Bobby gave away 5 memberships. That's what that
Oh,
was.
Bobby, thank you, dude. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for giving out the memberships, and congratulations to everybody who won. Thank you, Bobby.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. But...
Oh, no problem. No problem at all, dude. So we start comparing this video with the analysis, and we realized that whatever that was at least 9 feet off the ground. It was looking directly at us. You could see the shape of the head. It did look canine. It had a kind of a snout. It wasn't moving except for when the flashlight came at it. Then it ducks back behind the tree. It just sat there pretty much motionless until the flashlight went straight at it. But at the time Steve and I were out there, again, both of us were armed, and I was still a cop, which means I was still in the acutely reactive phase. Robbie can tell you, you're trained to be observant. You're trained to react to danger. I didn't sense anything. We didn't see it. We didn't even sense it being there. We had walked right past it, armed, alert, and with training, and never even knew it was there. So once we got the video this stills back, we could tell that something was definitely there that night. It was tall, it was very quiet, and it was intelligent enough to stay hidden. It was something close enough that could have touched us, and we never knew it. This isn't a sighting. This isn't an encounter. This is a near miss. And tonight we're going to be talking about that. We're going to take you guys back to Joe Bald, to the moment we realized that the Dogman in the dark wasn't just a legend. It was standing right behind us. So welcome to the Nightmare at Joe Bald, folks. The Dogman in the dark. And I thought we would start this out before we start discussing this by playing the video. Robbie, what do you think?
I think that's good, because I'm sure there's probably people out there who hadn't seen it.
Okay, I'm going to play the video in its entirety. Now, we have another video on the channel here called the Joe Bald Breakdown video, where you can watch a more extended version of the video and actually see the breakdowns. But we're not going to play that version tonight. We're just going to play the raw video, and then we're going to show you the enhanced stills. So watch this video clip, because we'll probably play it more than once. But watch this video clip and see if you can spot it. Look above the bridge and to the left. So here we go. Hey folks, D.A. Roberts. Out here doing research for books for the future, and showing you guys the creepier parts of the state of Missouri and the Ozarks. We're here in the Joe Bald camp area. It's been an abandoned campground for about the past 20 years. Army Corps of Engineers closed it down in the early 2000s. Allegedly, there have been a number of people go missing down here. It's pretty well overgrown. Pretty creepy place. Thought I'd show you around a little bit. You see it? It goes by fast, but it's right there. We're here near Table Rock Lake. You can see the lake through the trees. Lake's up actually pretty high. Hear a lot of night sounds tonight. I don't hear anything out of the ordinary. Did you see it, Robbie? I know you saw it because you know right where to look. Now I'm going to play that again, and when I turn and shine that flashlight into the woods, there's that little concrete bridge with the bars. Look above and to the left, and you will see something with its head out behind a tree. And it's pretty small, so you got to look pretty close. But watch it, and as that flashlight trails over it, you see it will just kind of like back behind the tree, like it does not want that light in its face. So here we go. I'm going to go and hit it again. Hey folks, D.A. Roberts. Out here doing research for books for the future and showing you guys the creepier parts of the state of Missouri and the Ozarks. We're here in the Joe Bald camp area. It's been an abandoned campground for about the past 20 years. Army Corps of Engineers closed it down in the early 2000s. Allegedly, there have been a number of people go missing down here. It's pretty well overgrown. Pretty creepy place. Thought I'd show you around a little bit. If you pay attention, you'll see a lot of extra eye shine, too. Did you see it that time? Robbie, you're muted. I couldn't hear you talking, buddy. We're here near Table Rock Lake. You can see the lake through the trees. Lake's up actually pretty high.
You hear me now?
Yeah.
I said
Hear
you
a lot
can't
of night
unsee it
sounds
unless you
tonight.
know where it's at.
I don't hear. Okay, I'm going to pull up a still and put it on the screen and show you exactly where we're talking about. Then we'll play the video again so you can see it for yourselves. So, right here. You can see the shape of its face sticking out from behind that tree. Now here's the bridge, and there's the exact spot. That is it sticking out. Okay. Now that you got that, get that position firmly fixed in your head, and I will play the video one more time. So here we go. Let's do this. Hey folks, D.A. Roberts. Out here doing research for books for the future and showing you guys the creepier parts of the state of Missouri and the Ozarks. We're here in the Joe Bald camp area. It's been an abandoned campground for about the past 20 years. Army Corps of Engineers closed it down in the early 2000s. Allegedly, there have been a number of people go missing down here. It's pretty well overgrown. Pretty creepy place. Thought I'd show you around a little bit. There it is. And when you peel back, it ducks back behind the tree again because of that flashlight. We're here near Table Rock Lake. You can see the lake through the... So, did you guys see it? Knightley says, DA Monster Quest is making a new season and there's an encounter from the Land Between the Lakes. Awesome. But did you guys see it? Did you guys actually see it? Okay. Well, this is one of the enhanced stills. And here's an even better version. On the right, if it comes up.
Yeah, they're both up.
Okay. On the right was what the AI picked out of that image. I gave that raw, grainy image on the left to an AI program, to Copilot, and I asked it to analyze it and give me a picture of what it thought it was. And the image on the right is what the AI gave me. Now, this is also from the AI. Had it analyze the image. And of course, on the left side, you can see the original image circled. And then on the right side, you see the AI enhancement. And this one cleared it up just a little bit, but you can see its hand on the tree. So, questions? What do you guys think so far?
That the whole time that he was filming you and you had your back, that thing was sitting there watching you.
It was close. And I know this is kind of hard to tell from this image. I know it's kind of hard to tell, but that's really not very far. I mean, it's maybe 20 yards. Maybe.
Yeah. And from that bridge to that tree, because me, DA, and Noah, the first time I went down there, we walked from that bridge to that tree. DA, you were probably standing, I'd say 10 feet in front of that bridge, maybe at the outset, 10 feet. You may have even been closer than that. But from that bridge to that tree is only another 10 feet. So that thing was well within striking distance.
If it wanted us, it could have got us. And Steve and I were both just carrying little 9mm. I had a Glock 17 on, and he had a Glock 26 on. So even if I'd have gotten the draw, I don't think I'd have done much more than pissed it off. But this is another still from taken as the flashlight. Flashlight was panning back, and there you can just see part of its head as it's ducking back behind the tree. If you look real close right there, you can see one eye and the side of its head. Here's it in black and white. It really kind of jumps out in black and white. So, now that you guys know what you're looking at, I'm going to play the video one more time, just up to that point, and see if you can spot it in real time. Because once you spot it, once you know it's there, like Robbie was saying, you really can't unsee it. Hey folks, D.A. Roberts. Out here doing research for books for the future and showing you guys the creepier parts of the state of Missouri and the Ozarks. We're here in the Joe Bald camp area. It's been an abandoned campground for about the past 20 years. Army Corps of Engineers closed it down in the early 2000s. Allegedly, there have been a number of people go missing down here. It's pretty well overgrown. Pretty creepy place. Thought I'd show you around a little bit. We're here near Table Rock Lake. You can see the lake through the trees. Lake's up actually pretty high. Hear a lot of night sounds tonight. I don't hear anything out of the ordinary. You watch, you'll see a bunch of eyes shine in these trees too.
Typical Missouri sounds. I don't think we're gonna find anything really interesting, but I was really hoping. But wanted to come down here for a while.
And right here at the end, you'll see them behind me.
And it's a pretty creepy place.
That's not a house. That's woods right over there.
And you want to come
woods and lake.
Follow the signs to the Joe Bald Recreation Area. It's still open to the public, but you can't camp here anymore. The place is completely overgrown. And really kind of neat. So if you get a chance, check it out.
Now, when we first got the stills back from that, we were pretty freaked out, and I reached out to Nick Valente, who was with the North American Dogman project at the time, and sent him the video, and we sent him the stills and everything. And Nick said that he believed that after watching it frame by frame at a slower speed, that there was probably at least 5 individual creatures in the woods around us. And that we were lucky to have gotten out of there. He also said that the images that we were able to isolate was one of the best examples of a Type 3 dogman he'd ever seen. Carol Minx Blanton says, "Is that a dog? DMI's behind you?" We don't know. All we know is there was something behind me in the trees, and it was pretty high off the ground.
Now, I think she was talking about when you flip back around the 2 eyes. Remember we've talked about that as you were shining back across the lake. Somebody asked, we think that's eye shine. We don't know for sure, but
pretty sure it was eye shine because it's in twos. You can see both of them. If that'd been like a street light from a house, it would have just been one light.
The thing that always gets me about that is 2 things: how quick it is, but also how fluid it is. Because it moves really quick, but there's no jerky movements. It's almost just like it just flows from behind, or from being in view just behind that tree with it's.
Yes, Miss Lene. Nick said after watching that video at like 1/4 speed, moving frame to frame, that he believed there was at least 5 of those things around us.
Well, I think there was more than one that night when me, you, Doc, and Noah were up there when we had the ear pros on.
Yeah, we could definitely hear them around us. Knightley says, "What are all the type descriptions?" Well, there's kind of some debate over that. If you listen to the NADP, they say they believe there's 7 types of Dogman, and I disagree. I think the top 3 that the NADP talks about are actually misidentified Gugway because they're all very mandrill-like. They're not canine at all. They're all more like a Gugway. So I think there's only really the 4 types, and the type 3 that Nick identified, it was kind of like the kind of similar to the one the werewolf you saw in the movie Van Helsing. That was a full upright upper body, much like a person covered in hair with a wolf head. But the one I actually saw in broad daylight in LBL was more of a type 2, like an upright canine. Northwoods, if you put glasses on a type 3 variant Dogman, it would look like my ex. Renewed Crocker, yeah, they do say 7 types, but I personally think it's just 3. I think it's just 4. I think the 3 that they consider as Dogmen are actually misidentified Gugway. So I think it's just 4 types: the hyena type, the upright canine type, the Dogman type, and kind of the throwback type. It looks more like a wild animal that's just on its hind legs. KHR 797 says, just turned in and rewound back, fast forward back to live. Y'all ran into a crawler or a pale demon? We think it was a Dogman. Just from the shape of the head, the ears and the snout, we think it was a Dogman. I'm not putting this as any kind of definitive proof or claiming 100% that's what we saw, but it is very difficult to explain what that was. To kind of continue on where we were going with that night, again, we filmed that and did not know it was in the image for a year. The air temperature was cool. It was late fall. Leaves were dry. It was a peaceful night. We were both armed, but we weren't expecting anything. And you can tell from the video, you could hear the background bugs, the cicadas, the night sounds. They were all there. We didn't get that dead silent woods. It just seemed like the woods to me. Nothing felt wrong. There was no feeling of dread, no silence, no alarm bells sounding in my head. Just me and Steve shooting a promo video for a book.
Somebody asked earlier if you've ever wondered why there was a lot of night sounds out there with those things around.
I don't think they were actively hunting. I think they were more curious. If they'd have been coming in looking to hunt, I think the night sounds would have been different. You ever notice how the woods can almost sense your intent? When you're out just for a walk, you'll see deer, you'll hear squirrels, but you go out there with a gun to hunt and everything's gone. I think it was like that. I don't think they had any intent of hunting us. I think Steve peed on a tree and they wanted to know who the hell was in their territory.
Kind of like somebody doing a Dogman howl in Bigfoot territory.
Kind of like it. Exactly.
I don't know who would be dumb enough to do that, but
I don't know. One of us. Certainly,
okay.
Me, you were any one of us would be dumb enough to do it.
Well, all 3 of us did calls. I just did the one that they didn't like.
Now, Robbie. Now let's lump in the night you and me and Noah first went down to Joe Bald. Now, tell us about how different that was, because I like I said, I did the same thing with Doc. I told you before we even reached Joe Bald, tell me when you feel it.
Yep, and this day he says that Doc and I were within like 100 yards of each other when we totally separate times of the year, and we were within 100 yards of each other saying when we felt the shift of how things felt. But when we got there that night, we stepped out of the car and it was like stepping out into a vacuum. 3 of us stepped out of the car and there was other vehicles there that night. That was the night of the famous 24-hour service vehicle. And there were other vehicles there, but not like it wasn't like there was anybody outside talking or anything like that. There was just vehicles driving through, but it was dead silent. You couldn't hear right in the spot where y'all just heard that video with all them cicadas and crickets and tree frogs and all those things going. We were right there in that same spot, and it was dead quiet.
PW 112473 says, what if instead of Steve peeing on a tree, it actually turned out peeing on that creature's leg? I'll tell Steve and see if I can watch for his reaction. I'll be willing to bet he goes pale. If it had been behind that tree when he was taking a leak on it, that would have been absolutely terrifying. Anyway, sorry, Bobby, go ahead.
No, it was dead silent. I mean, it's just that was the first thing I said when we got out of the car. I looked at DA and I said, this ain't like a natural feeling. This is not what you expect when you get out of the car at a place like that. Even, wintertime and at night, you're still going to hear stuff, and you didn't hear anything. And it was a weird feeling. But I've been in the woods when it's been like, the sound like DA, and then we're had in the video, and then it goes that way. Jessica and I, that happened to us in Georgia. And I don't know what's scarier, being out there and having all that sound going and it all of a sudden stopping, or stepping out and it's like that. But weird feeling either way.
Yeah, and that place, even in the daytime, that Joe Bald just has a weird feeling to it, kind of a weird vibe.
Well, even Combs Ferry was like that when we went back over there during the day. It still felt off.
Yeah, it still felt off. But that's the funny thing is that first night that Steve and I went down there, we didn't feel any of that.
Well, think about though, when me, you, and Noah went back over when we were going to try to video us walking around. Mm-hmm. We both talked about how it felt totally different than the last time the three of us were there. It just felt like a normal place that night. Kind of like the same feeling you and Steve had the night y'all were down there. And I think that was the only time that we've been to Joe Bald that we didn't actually see anything really out of the way. It just felt like a normal place at that time. And then fast forward a day or two, we have what happened at Combs Ferry. So
yeah. So how we've talked numerous times about how Steve and I reacted after we saw that. But that first night when you saw that eye shine, and the night Noah became the Robbie Wrangler, when you saw that eye shine, how did that change your impression of Joe Bald?
Well, I mean, I already thought it was creepy as all get out anyway. So, it ticked the situational awareness up, a notch or 12. That's for sure. Because when you get out and you got a feeling that something's weird or something's off, something's, just not right, it's one thing. But then you looking around and you look up about 8.5, 9 foot up the tree and see two big yellow eyes looking down at you, or greenish color eyes looking down at you. It's kind of like, okay, things just got a little different.
Then the next day we went out there, we found that the hunting blind and that 7-inch track
right below where we'd seen the eye shine. And like I told you,
where that track was maybe 30 yards from where that thing's peeked out from behind the tree.
Yep. Maybe. And because remember, you asked me that night after we lost the eye shine, you said, did it go? And I said, no, it's still here. That's where it was at. It was right there in that.
It was in that hunting blind, hoping we'd come stupidly down that game trail.
Which,
in Robbie's defense, he was heading that way until Noah had to grab him. Robbie about got himself ate
by a wolf.
I tell you though, I still, every time I look at those stills, I get chills to realize how close we were and didn't realize it was there.
Well, that's the thing, especially like you said, you weren't out there in the mindset of looking for stuff. You were just out there filming the promotional video. So,
right.
I'm not saying that you two weren't situationally aware, because I know you always are, but you weren't out there looking for that kind of threat. You were probably Greater North American meth head type, stuff like that. You had zero inclination that there was something that dangerous that close to you. And that's what's up? How y'all doing?
Thanks for being here, guys.
That's in itself is terrifying, that thing, can get that close to somebody who is a certified police officer who has spent his life as a police officer in the military, been in the woods all your life, and it got that close to you and didn't even make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up because it was being that stealthy.
And for something that big to move that quietly, that's kind of unnerving. Because at one point, Steve and I had to have been within 10 feet of that thing and never saw it.
Think about that night we were out there with those ear pros. We would have never heard the things we heard off beside us moving around and trying to flank us if we'd not had
those ear pros are worth their weight in gold out in the field.
Oh yeah, but we would have not known that we were being flanked that night.
Right. Yeah, we never would have heard them moving through the woods, but those things amplify sound so good. We were hearing every twig break.
So, yeah, Joe Bald can be an experience.
It was within about 50 yards of there where we found those dismembered deer.
Yep.
And we also found dismembered deer parts on Combs Ferry and over at Blunk Road. But the ones that Noah and I found were literally about 50 yards away from where that thing was behind the tree, and it wasn't close to a road, so it wasn't like somebody pulled up there and dumped them.
We also found that dismembered license plate that night too.
Yeah, I found that license plate. There was a current license plate that had been torn off a car.
Not just the plate, like the entire front half of the front bumper.
Yeah, a big chunk. But I tell you though, that incident when we went down there to film for Lakeview Men is what kicked off our whole exploration of Joe Bald. Because like I said, I'd already been looking into cryptids for decades, but it really got me to examining Joe Bald and the other campgrounds around Table Rock Lake, and it really, what we've experienced there helped formulate a lot of the theories we talk about on the show today.
Yep.
So Joe Bald is really kind of that pivotal moment for us.
Ground zero, so to speak.
Yeah, ground zero. But the really crazy part about all of this is we're not alone in our experiences in Joe Bald. There are lots of stories, and if y'all remember correctly, I told you when I first started researching Joe Bald, we found at least 8 references of people who had gone missing in or near the park. And then they all disappeared. Well, while researching this show, I discovered why. Because instead of classifying them as missing persons, they've all been classified as missing fishermen, which does not carry any connotation of a cryptid involvement. Despite some of the stories we're about to tell you, which are fairly obvious that they didn't just go in the lake and vanish. So we're going to talk about some other incidents, and let me tell you, I'll explain a little bit about this. We're doing a few episodes or a few references tonight, but this is nowhere near all of them. These are some of the more interesting ones, and the show that we're going to be doing Saturday night kind of ties into this show because the incidents that we're going to be talking about on Saturday night are just across the lake from Joe Bald. Literally 100 yards away across water. But Table Rock's deep. It's deep water and it's cold. And I think 180, 190 feet, somewhere approaching 200 feet is in her deepest part of her channel, which is down by Combs Ferry. Right there by the bridge, by the dam. But the rest of the lake is still deep. That is a lot of water out there. And there's ghost towns at the bottom of that lake. There's all kinds of stories about weird stuff around that lake, which makes sense considering Table Rock Lake has over 750 miles of shoreline. It's a big lake. But, if you ever find yourself down in the Kimberling City area and you're heading down toward Table Rock Lake, you'll see the sign that says Joe Bald Campground. And if you decide to take that corner, if you decide to take that turn and go down there, just be careful, and I don't recommend going at night. But Robbie, do you want to start in on the next segment? Let's start talking about let's start talking about some of the other incidents. I can't hear you, Robbie. You're muted, brother.
Every time you play a video, it mutes me and it doesn't turn me back on. Sorry. So are we at segment 2, the night fisherman? Is that where we're at?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Segment 2, the night fisherman. And the tall thing on the shore. He'd been fishing Table Rock at night for most of his adult life. He knew the lake and the way some men knew their own backyards. Every cove, every submerged stump, every place where the stripers pushed shad to the surface. But he avoided Joe Bald after dark. He never said why. Just, that place feels wrong at night. I concur.
Yeah.
One late September evening, the air warm, the water still holding the day's heat, he drifted towards Joe Bald Peninsula anyway. The lake was glassed out, not a ripple except for the faint V-wake of his trolling motor. The stars were bright enough to reflect off the water like scattered coins. He cut the motor and let the boat glide. That's when he noticed the silence. Not the usual quiet of a late night on the lake. This was total. No frogs, no crickets, no owls, no wind. Just a thick, suffocating stillness that felt like it was pressing against his ears. He swept the spotlight across the shoreline, more out of habit than out of concern. The beam slid across the rocks, up the trunks of the trees, across the fallen log, and then hit something that shouldn't have been there. A shape. Tall, still, standing half in shadow, half in the outer edge of the beam. At first, he thought it was a tree stump. Then the shape shifted, just enough for the light to catch the outline of a long, angular head ending in a muzzle-like point. 2 eyes reflected the light back at him, not bright like a deer's, but a dull green glow, like the eyes were absorbing the light instead of bouncing it. The head was 8 or 9 feet off the ground. He froze. The figure didn't flinch. It didn't blink. Didn't raise a hand to shield its face. It just stared. He said later that it felt like the thing was deciding what he was. Not startled, not afraid, just evaluating. Then, without turning, the figure stepped backwards into the trees, not stumbling, not brushing against branches, just a smooth, controlled retreat. See, just like I said, it's smooth and fluid and fast. It was like gliding. Did I not even use that exact terminology? It was like it was gliding.
It's not bouncing like a person does. It's just very smoothly walking. Which again is just like we're taught to do when you building clearing. Keep your weapon steady and your body from bouncing.
The moment it crossed the edge of the light, it vanished. It crossed out of the edge of the light, it vanished. No sound, no movement, no brush crack, nothing. He snapped the spotlight off immediately, instinctively, because suddenly the white cone of light felt like it made him too visible. He crouched in the dark, listening to the silence, feeling the weight of something on the shore watching him from just beyond the reach of the light. He never fished Joe Bald again at night, or never fished at Joe Bald again at night. So his height estimation from the shoreline was that it was about 8 to 9 feet off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
He also noted that it had the calm behavior of a predator, not, like a deer with, that typical deer in the headlight stare. The silent retreat, which, we've talked about, how closely, also for your standpoint, this really comes close to your and Steve's encounter. And to some extent, our encounter.
Well, yeah, when you and I saw it down there, it was not we didn't hear it stepping in the leaves, and when it moved, It was just like you said, it just glided through the woods.
Yeah, it was just there 1 minute and just slipped away
silently.
Yep.
The way it stepped back into the woods, though, what does that remind you of?
Well, that's human level intelligence, because animals don't typically move backwards.
Animals will run.
Yeah.
Or turn and walk away.
Some animals, if they're getting ready to fight another animal or something like that, maybe will step back and do things like that, but it's not typical. It's not something that they always do.
Right.
That is like something that knows I'm moving back. Just get out of the light and out of being safe. And that's the thing. It recognized the light and knew that most animals don't know that they can be seen in the light.
Right.
If you think about gator hunters when they're out there shining for gators. Gators don't know to duck under the water and they're safe. They just sit there, and that's how the hunters find them. Same thing with deer when they see headlights at night. They usually freeze.
Mm-hmm.
Possums, skunks, raccoons, all that stuff.
Because they're used to during the day. When they move, that's what gives them away.
Yeah, exactly.
But, just like in that video that we shot where it's leaning out behind the tree, when I played that flashlight back, it very smoothly just went right back behind that tree. No jerky movements, no suddenly panicking, just a very smooth, controlled motion.
What was the line in Shooter? Slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
That's right. I had an instructor used to tell us that all the time. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So, what do you think about the connections between between our incidents and this story?
I mean, a lot of the same behavior from both.
So if he was approaching the peninsula at Joe Bald, that means he was right there where we found those tracks. Because that's the only part of Joe Bald that juts out into the water.
Yep. Right there where we saw that guy swimming that was doing a little camping that night or that day. Right? Yep.
Yeah, it would have been right over there where we found those tracks that the truck destroyed. If he was trolling into that little cove right there. So that means if his light caught something, it would have been right over there where we found the blind.
Yep. So it very well could have been the same animal.
Yeah. Yeah, this one sticks with me. This story does because it verifies what we experienced.
Well, but the thing is, you got this story that is eerily similar to yours, but then you got your video that backs up the same type. I mean, I hadn't read what I tell you before the show. I don't read the show notes before we start because I want to go into it and be able to be more invested in it. And for me not reading the show notes and say the comments that I said about the way the thing was moving, and then right there he described it almost the exact same way that I did. To me, that's almost like a smoking gun.
Yeah, I agree. To me, that's just is so much corroboration for everything we've experienced down there. And this is someone we've never met. I did not interview this guy personally. I got this guy's account from a guy that lives down there. And he said he won't want his name used, so I didn't. And in fact, in these accounts tonight, there are no names, simply because I was asked, hey, we can tell you these stories, but we're not going to, we don't want our names out there. Because one of them, I'm not going to say where he works, but one of them has got a fairly public lifestyle, let's say. Someone's a very public person down in that area, and they don't want their business out there. But yeah, I got these stories from some folks that I consider very credible. We got about 5 minutes until we got to make a pause for the commercials. I don't want to start the next segment yet, but I do need to go take care of some business from my diuretic before we go to commercial. Do you want to tell folks a little bit talk about that track you found down there?
Okay, so if any of y'all, like I said, most of y'all probably have heard the story, but we've been talking about the blind that we found. We call it the hunting blind. Basically, the best way to describe it is like if you imagine a bird's nest that a bird would make, but imagine that turned up on its side and about 10 times the normal size. Like all these little saplings and things like that woven together to make like a bird's nest, but it's up on its side. So Noah and I are This was DA was just coming out of his pacemaker surgery, so he wasn't really cleared to do a whole lot of walking. So he was sitting down on a big rock, taking pictures while me and Noah were just walking around through the woods. I was kind of showing Noah some tracking stuff, and we worked our way back around, kind of up the hill from DA, then back around. We were working our way back around to where he was at, and we found this little game trail. And as we cross over a fallen log, I look up and I see this hunting blind basically, and it's right off the trail, right next to this little game trail. And so me and Noah go over and start looking at it, and I'm like, "Go get your dad and tell him to come over here and look at this." So Noah goes and gets DA. He comes back over, and I get inside the thing at this point, and I'm down on my knees, and I stretch my arms out the side, and I probably had about 1.5 feet on each side
At least.
and couldn't touch it. And then I reached up, and I've got long arms. I've got really long arms and big hands. And I reached up as high as I could. Like I said, I was on my knees, but I still couldn't touch the top of how big of an area it was. So I tell DA I'm wearing a black hooded sweatshirt, green camouflage pants, and a ball cap, my Dark Angel medical ball cap. I told DA, I said, "Hey, walk back up that game trail about 20 yards and turn around and start walking back down here and tell me, stop when you can actually see me." Well, he goes about 20 yards up and turns around, and he's like, and knew where I was at, knew exactly what I was wearing and exactly what to look for. Couldn't see me. So he starts walking down. How close did you get before you finally saw me, knowing where to look for me at?
I was within 10 feet.
Yeah, about 10 feet of me before he finally saw me, knowing where to look and knowing what to look for. Couldn't see me. So him and Noah come back in front of me, and we're stalking. I'm still down on my knees at this point, and we're just kind of looking around at this stuff. And I looked down, and in between my knees, I saw something on the ground. I kind of, what is that? So I started kind of moving leaves aside, and I'm looking, and DA's like, "No, tell me you didn't." And I said, and I leaned back, and I said, pointing down, I said, "What does that look like to you?" And I can't remember which one of you said it first, but one of you, either you or Noah first said, "Is that a wolf track?" And the one of you said it was canine. So I can't remember who said what.
Noah said, "Is that a wolf track?" I said, "That's definitely canine."
And you have your
I was looking for it. It doesn't look like I've got it on the desk.
thought
I had it, but I must have put it somewhere.
I had one of my Scallywag tactical knives. Which one is that, DA?
The Jolly Roger.
Jolly Roger. It's about yay big. I laid it down, and you may still have pictures somewhere of it, DA, but I laid it down beside it, and there was about a 1/2 inch on either side of that knife.
I think that closed is right at 6 inches.
Yeah. So that track was bigger than that Jolly Roger's closed, and probably about that big around, maybe more, but easily that big around.
Yeah, it was about the size of a small pancake. I mean, it was a big track. And pretty deep in the ground.
Yep. And to put that in perspective, from my right to my left is where we saw the eye shine, and it was about 12 to 15 yards back off behind me. So perfect. If that thing was standing over here next to this tree, because it kind of went up a little hill, and that's the way it came, was back to where we were at there. So more than likely that thing watched us. It saw us coming towards it. It slipped back down. It went over there, got in that little hunting blind, and it was waiting for one of us idiots to come walking by it.
Robbie, it is time for us to take a quick pause to pay the bills. Folks, we'll be right back. If you want to top up your drink or stretch your legs or head to the bathroom, you've got a couple minutes. So we're going to take a moment to pay the bills and send some commercials out. So we will be right back.
The new book, How to Research a Haunted House by paranormal investigator Margie Kay and professional researcher Violet Wisdom is now available from Unex Media. This one-of-a-kind book explains how to do research on a house with uncommon methods and resources used by historic home researchers, and how to determine who may be doing the haunting and why. How to Research a Haunted House can be used by homeowners, renters, investors, and it should be in the library of all professional paranormal investigators. Get this unique book at unexmedia.com or amazon.com. That's unexmedia.com or amazon.com.
Hey everybody, this is Kerry Pocket Doc Davis from Dark Angel Medical, and you are listening to DA Ex Machina with DA Roberts. You may recognize me or some of my products from Dark Angel Medical in some of the Apex Predator, Lakeview Man, and Wild Hunt books, and you can get those products at www.darkangelmedical.com, along with training classes on how to use those products and save a life. Shoot us an email at info@darkangelmedical.com and be the difference.
The Unex Network presents a health and wellness spiritually based brand of hemp-derived CBD products made by Hopewell Farm in Harrogate, Tennessee. We apply our Cathara energy work with all of our plants and products. Our products made in small batches with only 2 ingredients of pure hemp, full-spectrum crude oil, and coconut-derived MCT oil. Third-party lab tested for potency and legal THC levels with 6 strengths of 1 ounce oil to choose from. Know what you're buying and get what you pay for from Hopewell Farm. Applied directly to a specific area, Hopewell Farm topical salve in 1 ounce and ½ ounce sizes made with pure hemp crude oil, comfrey extract, and all natural ingredients. Find the Hopewell Farm link and coupon code on the Unex Network website at unexnetwork.com. That's unexnetwork.com. In a world where monsters still walk the earth, one author dares to face them. From the brutal cryptid horror of the Apex Predator series to the Ozark legends that stalk the night in Lakeview Man, from the elite warriors of codename Wild Hunt to the relentless investigations of the Nightmare Hunter and the frontier terror of Dark Frontiers. When the dead rise, the Ragnarok Rising saga unleashes pure zombie apocalypse fury. And across the stars, war rages in the Lost Legion and man's marauders. And in the realm of myth and steel, the world of Vanguard calls to those born for legend. Cryptids, zombies, sci-fi warfare, epic fantasy. This is the universe of D.A. Roberts.
And folks, we are back. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. We're glad to be back, and we are getting ready to jump straight into the next story. I think you guys are going to enjoy this one. This one, it talks about screaming coming from across the water. And this actually happens not just in Joe Bald, but right across the cove from it. The family had rented a lakeside cabin for a long spring weekend. They'd spent the day fishing, grilling, and letting the kids run wild along the shoreline. By nightfall, the lake was calm, the air cool, and the fire pit crackled with the last of the oak logs. It was around 1:30 a.m. when the first scream came. It started low, a moaning, almost human sound, then rose sharply into a shrill, piercing wail that echoed across the cove. Halfway through, the sound broke into a deep, guttural roar like something huge forcing air through a narrow throat. It bounced off the water, rolling through the hills, and seemed to come from everywhere at once. Everyone froze. The adults exchanged looks, the kind of look that says, "That wasn't normal, but we're going to pretend it was." 5 minutes later, it came again, closer. This time the kids started crying. One of the adults tried to laugh it off. Probably a bobcat, they said, but the laugh died halfway out of his mouth. because the woods had gone dead silent. No insects, no frogs, no night birds, the only sound being the crackle of the fire and the sound of their own breathing. Then the scream came again, this time from the opposite side of the cove, as if it was whatever it was had moved hundreds of yards in seconds. The adults hustled the kids inside. One of them stayed behind to secure the boat. He stepped onto the dock, flashlight in hand, and swept the beam across the water. That's when he saw them. Two orange eyes, low to the ground, just above the waterline on the opposite bank. Not glowing, reflecting, watching. The eyes didn't blink, didn't move, just stared across the water at him. The scream came again, so loud and so close that he felt it in his chest. He ran inside and locked the door. The screams continued for nearly an hour, moving from one side of the cove to the other, as if something was pacing the shoreline. In the morning, no one wanted to talk about it.
As Doc would say, muy interesante.
And I'm pretty sure I know which cabins they're talking about. I think they're the ones that are just down from Joe Bald toward Ants Creek.
Would that
So
be
what
the
screams
one?
like that?
Well, everybody's standard answer, bobcat, because that's
Or mountain lion?
yeah. But problem is, bobcats don't usually do that to harass people.
They just squall and holler amongst themselves.
Yeah. Usually, if bobcat's screaming and you get in the woods around it, 9 times out of 10, it runs off.
Dorothy, it all started around 1:30 a.m. when this first scream came.
So, short answer is, I don't know. Maybe a dogman.
Yeah?
Maybe a Bigfoot. Who knows? I mean, we've heard of them mocking screams and hollers and things like that. So
This one,
but
it's not just a campfire story. This one, these kids were scared to death, and but it never came closer. If somebody was gonna make up a campfire story, I certainly could have done a much better job than that. But this one is creepy. I mean, who hasn't heard noises in the woods they can't explain? But for them to keep pacing and then making it like back and forth down the cove, I don't think it was moving that quickly. I think it was more than one of them.
well, I was waiting for that to come out, and I was thinking that was what was going to be said. But that's my thinking in it.
And this was not a visual sighting, just a terrifying vocal.
Well, he said he saw eye shine, so technically that is a visual sighting.
True. Mary Cole says Ozark Howler. Again, maybe. Since they didn't get a physical description of the creature, that's entirely possible. Because there was an Ozark Howler sighting just down the road at Blunk Road. And
that would with the scream aspect of it, that would make more sense to me for it to be something like that.
Wyatt says, what did the scream sound like? Sorry, been busy. It says it started low, a moaning, almost human sound, then rose sharply to a shrill, piercing wail that echoed across the cove. Halfway through, the sound broke into a deep, guttural roar like something huge forcing air through a narrow throat. That's not a bobcat.
To me, that sounds like descriptions I've heard of the howler.
So it's entirely possible this could have been a howler.
And like you said, we're sightings not far away from there, so
yeah. And Kimberling City, in that area around Table Rock Lake, is rife with all kinds of sightings.
And the pacing back and forth all night, and, to me that just kind of fits more in that vein than it does any of the other stuff.
Yeah, I'm kind of agreeing with you on with with you on this one, that this one very possibly could have been a howler. What were you going to say, Robbie?
Wyatt said something, was saying something about heat. There, you got it.
Oh, Wyatt, there are plenty of Ozarks howler sightings around Table Rock. So it's entirely possible.
Yeah, I feel more comfortable saying that's what it sounded like to me than anything else. And just based on, like you said, it's not a complete visual, but based on the limited information that they did
And if
have,
it had been in what we saw, the eye shine was green.
yeah,
An orange eye shine, yellowish eye shine is almost more like a big cat.
which nobody truly knows what the howler is.
Yeah, it has been described as big, being a cat like in the size of a bear.
So, like I said, I feel more comfortable putting it in that category than Dogman.
I'm with you there. I'm kind of thinking this was probably a howler, but we weren't there. There wasn't a visual confirmation. But if I had to guess, I would say this is probably a howler.
Yeah, like I said, just based on the limited description that was given, that's what it. My first knee jerk reaction would be to say that.
But that's right there in that same area. I mean, it's just down the shore from Joe Bald.
Yeah.
Maybe half a mile. Arlen says with horns. They didn't describe an actual physical sighting, so we don't know if they had horns or not. But the howler is described as having horns.
A Bob Bigfoot cat.
Mary Cole says the howler in your book was the scariest. Howlers are pretty terrifying. Knightley says, DA, I changed my mind. I think it's an Ozarks howler after listening to an audio recording. Awesome. Toshi says, I wonder if the howler might be a relic population of a saber-toothed cat. People seeing that might be confusing its fangs for horns. Maybe. But the howler is always described as being dark colored, and saber-tooths were always like lion colored, like a fawn or a tan color.
But there again, if it is like Toshi's saying, just throwing this out there, and it's in this area now, it's gonna adapt, and its fur color may change. I mean, think about how different a grizzly bear's fur can look depending on where it's at. I mean, you can get grizzly bears that are almost, the color of that wall behind me, and then you can get some of them that, are the color of these
Blocks of wood.
Blacks. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and then some, with that silver on the hump. So if it is, and the fur doesn't necessarily rule it out of that,
right.
That's actually a pretty
good theory.
Yeah. The biggest saber-tooth species, the Smilodon populator, was the size of a grizzly bear.
Yeah, so that's kind of fitting. PW, yeah, I believe the Beast of Bray Road was described as having green eye shine. And K. Bauer says, DA, I was watching a documentary. They were talking about an area y'all mentioned. Y'all went there, right? It's the same. If they're talking about DeMumbers Bay, then yeah, we independently we had crazy experiences in DeMumbers Bay.
And gonna have some collectively in the near future.
Northwood says the deer in Michigan's Upper Peninsula have adapted to harsh winters and look like they're walking around on stilts. That's a regional adaptation. I mean, black bear is the perfect example of that. There's like 26 subspecies of black bear.
Yeah. I'm not saying that the howler is a saber tooth. That's a very, very plausible, because if you saw a saber tooth cat and you saw those big fangs and maybe it had its head turned sideways and it was a darker color, but it was that size and it was one of those.
She's got a point. We know many cats have black color coats, so the idea of a megafauna of cats having coat variations should be expected.
Yeah.
And if they were more adapted to hunting at night to avoid being detected, that dark color would probably breed true, because the ones that were still easy to see got shot.
Yeah. And the thing is, we don't know truly what sound a saber tooth would make. we can extrapolate that they're going to sound like a lion or a tiger, but you don't know that for sure. I mean, cheetahs don't roar.
True.
Cheetahs purr. Or they kind of that little rah, rah thing, but they don't roar because they don't have that same bone in their inner throat that the lions and the tiger. Cheetahs are not technically big cats. They're a big cat, but they're not in that big cat group because they don't roar. The roaring cats are another name for the big cat species. So we don't know what a saber tooth would sound like. Maybe it does sound like what people have described the howler sounding like.
It could. I mean, they found skeletons of saber tooths, but those small bones like that wouldn't survive.
No. Well, if you start looking into that, like areas in Chad and Syria and places like that, no, Hillary, one time only. But you look into places like that, some of these really sparsely populated areas, there's still people who report to this day seeing saber-tooth cat species all over the place. And I mean, so just because we haven't seen anything that's, we don't know for sure that all these things are extinct is my point. Just, I know y'all gonna say it, but I always go back to the shark. We don't know that megalodons are not there.
Right. They could still be out there.
We've explored 2% of the ocean of this world. This world is 76% water. How can anybody say we know everything that's out there?
Exactly. Rodney, thank you for sharing that. That is a fairly common description of the howler. Yeah.
And so, if you want to throw a real world animal out there that could possibly fit the bill, I'm with Toshi. I think a relic population of saber-tooth or smilodon populator could possibly fit the bill. It's the right size. I'm sure it's the right temperament.
Oh, it's definitely the right temperament.
I mean,
is it my turn or your turn to start the next one?
I think it's my turn. I think.
Hell, I don't remember.
I started on segment 2, and you did 3.
Okay.
So
all right. Well, 4 is all yours, brother.
All right. Segment 4, the vanished campsite. Two fishermen pulled into a quiet cove near Joe Bald to stretch their legs. They saw a campsite up on the bank. Tent, chairs, cooler, fire pit. Everything looked normal. But as they got closer, something felt wrong. The tent flap was half open. Inside, sleeping bags were laid out neatly. Paperback book lay face down like someone had just set it aside. The cooler still had ice in it, cold enough to fog the lid when they opened it. But there were no people. They called out. No answer. The woods felt heavy, like the air itself was watching. They left quickly. A few weeks later, they returned to the same cove. The campsite was gone. Not packed up, but destroyed. Shreds of tent fabric hung from low branches, fluttering in the breeze. Words are hard. Tent stake was driven deep into the dirt, bent at a sharp angle. The fire ring had been kicked apart, rocks scattered, ash smeared across the ground. There were no footprints, no drag marks, no signs of animal scavenging, just a campsite that looked like it had been erased. The fishermen never went ashore in that cove ever again.
That was from in Joe Bald. Inside.
Now, relative to where we were, Do you know about where this is? How far from us this was?
Do you know that spot over there on the back side of Joe Bald where we found the first overturned?
Picnic table or the?
No, not the first picnic table. The first overturned power box.
Yeah, the one me and Noah actually went out and got looked at.
Yeah,
or the
would have
one
been
we couldn't find
between
again?
would have been between there and the lake.
Okay, yeah. Well, that was about where we started seeing the destroyed picnic tables too in that area.
Yep. Yep.
Because we saw 2 boxes, but we couldn't ever go back and find that second one we saw. I don't remember if it was the first one we saw or the second one we saw, but once we circled back around, we was only able to find one.
Right. And last time Noah and I were down there, we were only able to find one again. Weird enough that campground was abandoned like that with a book just laid over. Weird enough that was done like that, but then to come back and find shreds of the campsite, everything scattered, even the fire ring, that's not normal.
Yeah.
You know, raccoons and possums and stuff that were raiding the campsite would not scatter the fire ring.
No, that's not. I mean, I don't even know why people would do that. Not that they would do any of the other stuff, but I mean,
but this one's actually from inside Joe Bald, within, what would you say, that point on the shore, maybe 40 yards from where you found that, in the opposite direction from where Steve and I were, but maybe 40 yards from where you found that track, maybe 50.
yeah, give or take.
Just deeper into the woods.
Yeah, I'm not far, especially for something that can move like these things can move. You know, translation about 5 feet for one of us, probably.
Yeah. Cover that ground quick.
So, that's a strange one. I'm with you. I don't know why. And it was several weeks in between the 2 times, so it wasn't like it was.
Right.
You know, so every little animal had a chance to go in there, but apparently didn't. Why?
Right. And if that had been a person, why would there be shards of fabric of the tent? If it had been a person went in there, they'd have just took the tent. I mean, free tent. Why would you shred it?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Now I know some people are just destructive, but the cooler was gone, and when they found it, there was still ice in the cooler. So whoever was there, they hadn't been gone long.
Yeah. I mean, depending on what type of cooler it was, yeah, probably not.
Well, I said the campsite looked like they just walked away. I mean, nothing out of place. So do you think the family had gone, whoever was camping there, do you think they'd just gone for a walk? Do you think they were just gone?
I think they might have went for a walk, but not the way.
Or if they had a vehicle nearby and something scared them bad enough, they just left everything and ran.
Well, that's a possibility. Because it never said anything valuable was left, just with a book and a cooler and 2 sleeping bags and the tent.
I've been hiking out in the Mark Twain a few times and just found campsites like that. Just tent still there, sleeping bag still in the tent, fire ring still there, fire's gone cold, nobody around.
That's more of a common occurrence than people want to think, I think, or I believe. Because
there's a few times I thought maybe I'd found like a homeless person's camp, but the fire was cold. Didn't look like it. And even in one case, one of them I found out in the Twain, the tent was faded like it had been in the sun a while. And it wasn't like a campsite that was on a trail. I'd been bushwhacking up a creek when I found it.
Anyway, yeah. Where did was it? The Mammoth Caves or something like that? You said that they found.
Yeah, they found camping gear 3 days in.
Mm. So, where we at now? I mean, that's plausible.
I'm personally kind of leaning toward the theory that something scared them bad enough to just leave everything.
And then came back later and destroyed the campsite.
Yeah. And if there was ice still in that cooler when those two fishermen found it, they hadn't been gone long.
Mm-mm.
Kay Bauer says that's how the old lady on the Appalachian Trail was found, off trail, died of hunger.
Oh, yeah, he was talking. Was that the one you were talking about? The guy was that you just flashed up.
Yeah, I was fishing in LBL and saw one sneaking up on a couple that when they got out of their tent. Yeah, that was supposedly in the late 70s. I want to say 1978, somewhere around there. It was before the family that was killed in LBL.
Oh, that was before. I thought that was after that. So that was actually
before it. It was a few years before.
That's interesting. I always thought that one was after that. You ready to start number 5?
Fixing to. Lone Queen says, so what happened to the people? Makes you wonder if they are some of the missing. There are a number of missing fishermen. Boats found empty. Campsites found abandoned. People who supposedly went down to the shore to fish and were never seen again. Because, when you're fishing a lake, you hook something on a 10-pound test line and it's going to pull you to the bottom. That just doesn't happen. Not in Missouri. It's not like you're going to hook a 1,200-pound shark and it pulls you out of the boat. And nobody around here fishes with strong enough test line to pull in anything but a big bass. Just a guy says, sorry, DA. Say DA are a fisherman, part of the 411. Not that I remember reading. Lone says, I think they have found human bones and gear in more than one cave. Yeah. There's one section in the Mammoth Cave where they found all types of bones. And speaking of that, that's kind of what we're going to be talking about on Saturday, but I don't want to give too much away.
Today's show.
That's right. I'm going to start the next story. It's about a deer kill. This was a bow hunter who was hunting off the end of Joe Bald Road, which is over by the backside of the park. Robbie, when we would drive down to Joe Bald and we make that turn right there by that little church and it goes all the way up to the park?
Yeah, we're starting to go up the hill.
Right. If we went straight there instead of turning up toward Joe Bald, it winds around on the backside of the peninsula, and there's woods up there, and a lot of guys hunt up there. And this is where this story was.
Didn't we?
So it was only. Yeah, we did.
There's another exit that goes out on that side.
Right.
Too. We just turned around and ended up going back out, but it's that exit where you make that little.
Yeah, this would have made it maybe half a mile from the Joe Bald campground, maybe. As the crow flies, not the route we went. But a bow hunter was tracking deer sign near Joe Bald Road. He smelled the kill before he saw it. A thick, metallic scent that clung to the back of his throat. Know that smell. He expected a gut-shot deer from another hunter. Instead, he found something that made him stop cold. The deer's rib cage was cracked open, not cut. That was kind of like the rib cage on that one down at Blunk Road.
Yep.
The spine was snapped, not severed. Again, just like the one we found in Joe Bald and the ones we found on Blunk Road. The head was missing, but there were no blade marks. The neck vertebrae were splintered as if twisted until they broke. The ground and the carcass was disturbed in a tight radius, a violent struggle but contained, like a predator had pinned the deer and finished it quickly. There were no drag marks, no bullet holes, no signs of coyotes feeding, just raw, brutal force. He found impressions in the leaf litter, not clear enough to cast, but spaced like a biped, heavier than a man. He left the woods immediately. Over the years, similar stories have surfaced in that area. Headless deer, spines snapped, torsos torn open, no feeding patterns matching known predators. Our own discovery at Joe Bald fits this pattern perfectly. Because the dismembered deer that Noah and I found in Joe Bald, the head was torn off. I mean, you could tell by looking at it. It was torn off. The hide had been pulled off, much like you'd pull a glove off. It wasn't cut off. It had been just grabbed and ripped off the animal, and the legs were broken and twisted off.
Kind of like the hide we found in Combs Ferry.
Right. And everything we found down on Blunk Road. Hell, we found a deer head in the middle of the road out there in the middle of nowhere. Knightley says, DA, didn't a guy see a Dogman or Bigfoot swimming toward him? Yeah, that was actually, that happened just off of the shore in LBL. It was a story that we talked about a couple of times. There was a guy was fishing right at dusk, and he was trolling into this little cove and saw one sitting at the edge of the water. And when it saw him, it started into the water toward him. And he fired up the big engine and got out of there and now doesn't fish on that side of the lake.
I know a couple of guys who saw Bigfoot crossing the river towards them.
That was down at Blunk Road. Yeah. That was the night we learned a Doc can do a bootlegger's reverse in an SUV.
Doc became stroker ace in a flash.
Robbie, how long you been deer hunting?
Hey, I'm 51, probably 35, 40 years.
Now, in that story, he described the chest compartment being torn open. Not cut, torn. Do hunters do that?
No.
No cut marks, busted open. What predator does that?
I mean, any predator that's going to try to eat the organs would do that, but
it could go through the stomach and get the organs without breaking the rib cage.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. That would be what it was going for. But as far as breaking the rib cage open, I mean, a bear could do it, but don't typically do that type of stuff.
Why would they? It's a lot of extra effort for minimal reward. Especially since they could go up under the rib cage and just tear them out with their teeth.
Kind of like the same thing that might.
And to split open a rib cage like that, you got to have hands and a tremendous amount of strength. And to snap the spines by twisting them, what predator does that?
We have seen with our own eyeballs, as Doc would say, we've seen it. We have seen this exact type of damage to these deers. This is not stuff that we're sitting here speculating on. We've actually seen deer in this exact same condition before we even knew these stories existed.
Right. Because this story that we're talking about right now, I hadn't even heard this story until about 2 weeks ago. Good night, Bobby.
See you, Bobby.
How much force would it take to snap a spine or a rib cage like that?
A lot more than any person could do, unless you're talking like maybe Brian Shaw, Eddie Hall, one of those.
And
those
even then, why would they?
Exactly. I mean,
it's a lot of effort to get to organs that nobody's going to eat.
Yeah. And
when you open that abdominal cavity anyway, all you got to do is reach up, pull those organs out.
Yeah. And black bears will eat meat, but they're primarily herbivores and eat berries and things like that. Now they'll eat
But they
fish,
will eat meat. But
and they will. Yeah, they will. I mean, they're opportunistic about stuff like that. They're not strictly on that, but black bears, for the most part, survive on foraging. You know, roots, berries, small animals. You know, small things like.
and if it come across a deer carcass, it would obviously take the opportunity to eat something.
But a black bear is not not going to actively hunt and take down a deer unless it was, because number one, I don't know any black bear that's going to be able to run down a healthy deer. They're just not built for speed like a grizzly or anything like that.
Doyle's got a good point. Bears usually eat their kill from the rear end up.
Well, and the other thing, bears don't leave. Bears will drag a kill off and they'll bury it, so they can come back and eat it later.
So what about the force required to remove the head by breaking? Not cutting, breaking. Because every one of those deer heads we found had been removed, not cut off, had been torn off.
I believe Doc was quoted as saying immense force would be needed to do something like that.
For a person to do it, you would almost have to chain the deer to a tree and then pull that off with a truck.
Yeah, mechanical separation.
Without using a knife. I mean, if you're going to try to just pull it off, ain't no person I know of who's got the strength to grab the neck bone and the head and rip them apart.
Well, think about Steve when we were talking about the hide in the tree that night, when he was talking about, when he was talking through it and trying to talk himself through everything, and he said, that hide has been mechanically separated, which doesn't necessarily mean it was a machine that did it. It just mechanically separated means it took a great amount of force. And short of a tree alligator that did a death roll on that thing and ripped the hide off of it and twisted its spine or its legs and broke them off like that, I don't know what else could have done that to those animals that we've seen.
CRJ, yeah, that does sound like something Bigfoot. Bigfoot would certainly be capable and possess the strength.
Well, that's what.
And another thing that on those carcasses we found, we didn't find claw marks. So whatever did it was not using claws. Okay, Bowers says dang tree alligators.
Well,
those infamous Missouri tree alligators.
Yeah, they go after the Missouri tree trout a lot of times, but sometimes deer just get caught up.
Okay, just to play the devil's advocate, what kind of animal could do that? What known animal could do that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say a polar bear has the strength to do it.
We don't get polar bears in Missouri.
Well, you just said what type.
Okay, well, let's say an animal that could, and whether or not it could possibly be there. So polar bear's out the question. A gorilla could do it. We don't get a lot of gorillas in the Missouri woods.
Yeah, just like gorillas up the pine trees.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, honestly,
Gator could. Don't get a lot of gators in Missouri.
Yeah, not a whole lot of gators there.
Our winters are a touch cold.
Except for them Missouri tree gators.
Missouri tree gators and Missouri tree trout.
Yep.
Grizzlies could, but the only grizzly sighting in Missouri in the last 100 years was in the northern part of the state, which would put it 6 or 7 hours away from here. So,
but based on that, there has been a grizzly sighting in there, so we put that in the plausible category.
But there would have been claw marks. But okay, grizzly theoretically could have done it.
Yes, theoretically, a grizzly got the power and the strength to do that. But that's why I say plausible, not because they're.
Kay Bowers got a good point. There was that gorilla that beat up Bobby Boucher.
Yep, he escaped from the zoo and punched him in the eye. And as far as we know, the search still continues. But yeah, so a grizzly would be.
Gingasan says says cougars, mountain lion. However, you mentioned no claw marks. But even then, I can't see them putting their paws on the neck and pulling the head off.
No, I don't think a big, really big tiger or really big lion could do that.
Well, they could crunch through the bone.
But I don't. But there again, we would have seen puncture marks from the fangs.
Right.
But if you just base it on sheer power, I don't think a cougar got the power to do that. Cougars are strong, but they're not that strong.
Not to break the spine in what looked like a twisting break, and to just remove the head completely, just disarticulate the head, not with a knife.
Think about it, and there again, I know that there are no crocodiles or alligators in Missouri, but just bear with me on this. And I'm not talking to you, DA. I'm just talking to everybody. Think about all the videos you've seen of them flipping their heads and dismembering
or doing a death roll.
This is the kind of damage we're talking about on these animals. Imagine that deer being inside a big gator or a big croc's mouth, and it doing that head whip and flipping parts off. That's what that head laying there looked like. It had been in the mouth of an alligator
and twisted off. But there were no teeth marks on it. It looked like something grabbed the head and the neck and went. Northwoods.
Oh, you say me and Doc derail the segments. Northwoods is as bad as me and Doc. But that's the reason I bring up the crocs and the gators, is because of how you've seen them do that. That's the kind of damage that we're talking about on these deer. And it's hard to if you didn't see them, even in pictures, it's still hard to grasp the type of damage that we're trying to describe without actually seeing it. And it wasn't like we were going to pick up that deer head and put it in the road because the net would have killed us. But that's what I'm talking about. If you've watched any of those National Geographics or Discovery Channel shows and seen a big croc with a wildebeest in its mouth and whipping that thing off, and the body go flying with nothing but a haunch of a shoulder left stuck in its mouth, that's with it just everything just ripped apart. That's what this looked like.
Okay, Robbie, I got a question for you and for everybody that's listening. For all y'all in the audience, I'd love to see your response to this question too. Here's the big question. Why? Why take the heads?
They always take the heads.
But seriously though, why take the heads?
I couldn't resist.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I thought when you started that, I thought that's what you want me to say.
No, why take the heads? Why would they bother?
Well, they didn't technically take them. They just took them off and left it laying in the middle of the road.
Okay. But Robbie, what was missing from all of those heads?
The brains.
And the tongue and the eyes.
Soft tissue, yeah.
And the like the soft palate.
Mm-hmm.
All of those soft pieces were gone.
Bigfoot trail mix.
Well, the Alaskan tribes say that the best part of the seal to eat is the eyes. So it tastes like ice cream.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, I'm not going to eat eyeballs. I'm not planning on it. But what if there's a lot of nutrients in the eye or the brain or the tongue? Well, I've had beef tongue. I mean, lingua. I mean, I've had beef tongue a number of times. It's good. So, deer tongue, it's going to be a lot of meat there, and it's all soft meat, no bones.
Yeah.
You get a hold of that tongue, pull that thing out, get the whole thing out. That's a meal.
I mean,
and those were all missing on all of those heads, including the eyes and the brain. House. What's up, House?
House,
what do you think? Why would they take the heads? Why would in these cases, and the cases that Robbie and I have encountered, and Doc and Steve, why would they take the heads? And every time we found the head, it's been missing the soft palate, the eyes, and the brain. And the head has been not sawn open, cracked open. Now, I can understand taking the brains for brain tanning. Yeah. I wouldn't say that I'm good at brain tanning, but I know how it works. So the Native Americans said that the Great Spirit gave every animal enough brains to tan its hide. So if you take out the brains of a deer and you boil it and mix it up the way it's supposed to be mixed, and then spread it onto the hide, it tans the hide. However, in every case when we found the hide laying nearby, not skinned like a hunter would do, but ripped off like you peeled off a glove.
Greg said
So
spot on.
they didn't take it for the hide. The hide was there.
Greg said spot on. They took it to soft tissue to eat. And Miss Lene's right. Sweet meat.
Sweetmeats. Took the eyes, took the tongue, and took the brain. Hey, Greg. What's up, brother? House in the house. Glad you're feeling better, dude. Doyle Thorne says, sending a message. I will have to hunt it up. Because I've got so many messages right now, I can't go through them all. I've probably got 40 messages pending on Facebook alone. Curtis Murray says, could be how older Sasquatches eat due to loss of teeth. That would be a very high nutrient piece that didn't require a lot of work. Castor Pollock says, the brains have a lot of essential amino acids. Huh. Have you noticed that that a lot of times when they find remains from the missing 411, they talk about how the skull had been broken apart?
Yeah.
They find shards of the skull, not an intact skull, shards of the skull. What if these things do eat brains?
If you go back and listen to Park Predators, where they're talking about all these serial killers that kill these people, a lot of those stories, when they find stuff, that's how they find the skulls. Stuff that they're trying to pin on these serial killers, these people they're doing this, because that's something that has always stuck with me is
House says the organs have the most nutrient value, and that's what we found. We found most of the meat of the deer, but the organs were missing. We didn't even find the gut pile. And the head, we found the head, but it was missing all those pieces. In fact, that one we found, Robbie, remember that we found the horns a couple feet away, where basically like something grabbed the horns and twisted the top of the skull off.
Yeah, because it broke a little hole about that big.
Yeah, because you could take it and just set it right back on there and it fit.
Mm-hmm.
What'd Wyatt say? Missed it.
He says maybe the Gugway goes for the head and the face.
Well, they do call them face eaters. Hillary said Critter would pass me up for fear of starving. Now, Robbie and I are safe. They don't want to eat all that hair.
Although
yeah, I think the reason
we are heavily marbled.
We are Wagyu people. But yeah, we're starting to get a clearer picture on this. They're taking the organs because they're high nutrients. And the brain, the soft palate, and the eyes, all high in nutrients. Things are starting to make sense now, aren't they? Segment 6, I believe, is yours.
Yep. Show is. All right.
And what Robbie's about to talk about, what goes on in this story, I've heard versions of this story from all over the Ozarks, not just around Joe Bald. I've heard stories eerily similar to this one, from the Mark Twain all the way up to almost to St. Louis, and from Arkansas to almost to Little Rock. I've heard versions of this same story everywhere in the Ozarks.
You ready?
Yeah, go for it.
Segment 6, the Shadow Watchers. Shadow Hunters, Shadow Walkers, Shadow Watchers. Be a third title. Anyway, boaters and hikers around Table Rock have reported tall, motionless silhouettes standing among the trees, not moving, not shifting, just watching. One couple anchored near the Joe Bald Peninsula at dusk, As the light faded, they noticed a shape on the ridge, tall, narrow, with a head that seemed too large for its body. They assumed it was a tree stump, but then it stepped sideways, not forward and not backward, just a single smooth lateral step, like a person, shifting to get a better view. When they shined the light towards it, the figure didn't run. It simply leaned behind a tree and vanished. No sound, no brush movement, nothing, just gone.
And I've heard versions of this exact same story from all over the Ozarks.
But there again, it's a lot of the same type of description, movement, and things like that you had in your video that we witnessed. That these other stories, I mean, the behavior is all similar. Like I said, the only outlier is the one that we said could possibly have been an Ozarks howler. That was completely different behavior, different movements, different. There was sound to that one. None of these others had any kind of sound to them. So,
one old boy I talked about that had a similar experience to that. This was down by Eminence, Missouri, one of the campgrounds down off the Current River. He said that he was camping, was only a handful of people in the whole campground. And then he kept seeing something like that, only he went toward it. He wanted to see what it was. And he said when he went toward it, it backed off into the woods and kind of disappeared. So he kind of shined his light around and got ready to go back to camp and saw it again a little further away. So he followed it again. And then it did the same thing. It disappeared. And just as he's getting ready to go back to camp, he looked up, and there it was again, farther away. And he said, it was right on the tip of my tongue to just go after it. He said, I really wanted to know what this was, but then I looked back and realized how far I was from my campfire and said, this thing's drawing me out.
I feel similar.
Scurried his ass back to his campfire and stoked the fire. Renita says, gut piles disappear with no trace or where they're picked up from. I've seen that happen numerous times. Talked to a lot of people that have had that happen. Robin Ray says, when a predator can take just the most nutritious portions from their prey, that indicates there's an abundance of prey, more than enough to sustain a population. Oh, there are tons of whitetail in Missouri, and that's just deer. They're now saying that the elk population that they released down by Eminence, Missouri, they're starting to see elk in the Branson area now, which means that population has exploded. So yeah, there's plenty of food out there, and rumor has it they're planning to release wood bison down in Berry County somewhere.
All y'all need is the big woolly cows walking around in the woods.
Well, Missouri Department of Conservation also said the other day that they were considering releasing gray wolves back in Missouri, and I'm here to tell you they're already here. Yeah, that night down in Joe Bald, we heard them. Yeah. They were across the cove.
But didn't you say Eric has seen them on his property?
He's got red wolves and gray wolves on trail cam out at his place. I'll have to look into that, Hillary. Thank you. Don't blame you there. But again, yeah, this same kind of story appears all over the place, especially throughout the Ozarks. But even in other places, there's shadow figures in the woods.
But interestingly enough, these shadow figures are acting just like all these other encounters we've read. With the exception
they're acting intelligently.
Yeah. So, but what one person describes as a shadow figure because they got it could be just these same dogmen that we're talking about.
Wyatt, they released wood bison and elk.
Yep.
And you're not allowed to hunt either of them. Please release large prey items and won't allow the hunters to hunt them. But the population of elk in Missouri has exploded to the point that they are now allowing limited hunts. I'd say in the next 5 to 10 years, they'll probably even be expanding that into more scheduled hunts with elk. And I'm telling you, if you can get an elk, if you can get a single, they even say decent sized bull, not even a big one. Hell, if you even got a decent sized cow, you're going to fill most deep freezes. You're going to be giving meat away.
Oh yeah.
You're probably looking at 1,000 pounds of meat.
Well, and a lot of those moose hunts they sponsor in Alaska. Yeah. What's his name from the Outdoor Boys? I watched him. He did a moose hunt, and he took enough to fill his freezer. He got three boys, his wife, and him. He took enough to fill his freezer up, and still gave away enough meat from one moose to feed an entire village. Everybody in that village got cuts off of that moose, and he still took enough home with him to fill up his freezer.
Just a guy, they're a little smaller than the Plains version.
Not much.
They're still big. They are still big, but they're a little smaller than the Plains version.
Because when we drove by that one in LBL,
they're big animals.
He was on the passenger side of my truck, and Johnny turned around and looked at him, and him and Johnny were looking eye to eye. Now, you know how tall my truck is.
Yeah.
Him and Johnny was looking eye to eye in my passenger seat, and I was like, please don't piss that thing off. I don't want my truck flipped over.
Just casually give it a toss.
Yeah.
So, now what these guys saw in the woods, Robbie, do you think they were like the legendary shadow creatures, or do you think these might have been the same things we've seen, just staying out of range?
That's what I think. Well,
what if all of these shadow stories literally are cryptids just watching from a distance?
And it very well could be. You know me, I don't discount the supernatural just because I've never had a supernatural experience. But everything I've ever seen in the woods, to me, I've been able to, pretty much at least in my mind, say that, okay, whether it be a known animal or something that I believe is a cryptid that just hasn't been discovered yet, I can prescribe a certain animal behavior to it, behavior that we've seen from all these other accounts that we've pulled in. And if you read these stories in sequence like we have, all the behaviors, with the exception of that one that we said we feel like it's more of an Ozarks howler, all the behaviors, mannerisms, everything, it's all been the same. The fluid movement, watching like a intelligent predator, not acting scared, not, just fluidly moving back out of the way of the light, things like that. I think it's just all, I think it's a dog.
Yeah. Leonard, I think so. I think that's why LBL reintroduced wood bison and elk. I truly do. And Greg House says, my neighbor had a pregnant cow. He found it wedged between two trees and it was dead, ripped open, and the calf was gone from inside. We couldn't figure out how or why the cow was wedged like that. Well, it sounds to me like they pinned that cow so they could get to the calf.
Veal.
That's freaky. That's freaky wild right there. And if they pinned it between the trees like that, they did it on purpose. That would not be standard coyotes. That wouldn't be wolves. They don't do that. Unless they spooked the cow and it ran between them, but...
I don't see a cow running between two trees and getting itself stuck like that.
Right, I don't either. If it could get in, it could probably get out. That sounds to me more like something wedged it in there intentionally.
I ain't seen Jeff in the chat tonight. He would be the one that could answer that question better than
he was here earlier. I don't know if he's still here.
Jeffro, if you're here, answer that question. Old milkman.
Nightwing says they needed fresh veal.
That's what I said, veal. It's what's for dinner.
Having a little veal parmesan.
Yeah. I don't know why Bigfoot suddenly got Italian, but
Oh. Angela Monroe says the Google says the wood bison is larger and the largest land mammal in North America. I thought they were a little smaller than the plains bison.
I wasn't gonna argue with you, but I'm telling you, I showed you that video. That thing was tall.
I've been up by buffalo in a vehicle, mind you. I didn't get out and try to pet the fluffy cows, but I've been in Yellowstone up close to those, and those things were as big as a small SUV.
Well, that thing was every bit. I mean, its shoulders were above. I mean, were like the hump on its shoulder was like even with the top glass, and he turned his head, and like I said, him and Johnny were like dead eye to eye with each other.
That's a big animal. That's a lot of beef on the hoof. Imagine getting one of those.
And I would go out on a limb and say he at least weighed half of what my truck weighed, maybe even what my truck weighed.
Yeah, that's probably 1,500-1,600 pounds of animal at the least.
Yeah, Jerry, he's probably snoring in his noodles by now.
Well, I'm starting to think that they really don't. They just will not corroborate it. If you look back at some of the historical texts, hell, even the Vatican knew about them. If you look in the Sistine Chapel, the image with the image of the crucifixion from the Sistine Chapel, you guys can look this up right now on the Googles if you want. Go to images, go to the images go to Google Images and look up images of the Sistine Chapel. There's one image that shows Christ on the cross. If you look behind him, in the mouth of a cave is a Bigfoot type creature with 3 toes. Full-grown plains wood bison weighs around 2,200 pounds.
So
Holy simoleons.
It weighs almost as much as my truck. I think my truck's 24.
Yeah, that's a big animal. Hey, Roger.
What's up, Raw Jer? Tell you, when you're driving on the road and that little son of a gun's walking beside your truck.
Hey, we're running late. We got to pay the bills, man. Folks, we will be right back. We have to take a quick pause to pay the bills. We will be right back.
Hey everybody, this is Kerry Pocket Dot Davis from Dark Angel Medical, and you are listening to DA Ex Machina with DA Roberts. You may recognize me or some of my products from Dark Angel Medical in some of the Apex Predator, Lakeview Man, and Wild Hunt books, and you can get those products at www.darkangelmedical.com, along with training classes on how to use those products and save a life. Shoot us an email at info@darkangelmedical.com and be the difference.
The Unx Network presents a health and wellness spiritually based brand of hemp-derived CBD products made by Hopewell Farm in Harrogate, Tennessee. We apply our Cathara energy work with all of our plants and products. Our products made in small batches with only 2 ingredients of pure hemp, full-spectrum crude oil, and coconut-derived MCT oil. Third-party lab tested for potency and legal THC levels with 6 strengths of 1 ounce oil to choose from. Know what you're buying and get what you pay for from Hopewell Farm. Applied directly to a specific area, Hopewell Farm topical salve in 1 ounce and ½ ounce sizes made with pure hemp crude oil, comfrey extract, and all natural ingredients. Find the Hopewell Farm link and coupon code on the Unx Network website at unxnetwork.com. That's unxnetwork.com. The new book, How to Research a Haunted House by paranormal investigator Margie Kay and professional researcher Violet Wisdom is now available from Unex Media. This one-of-a-kind book explains how to do research on a house with uncommon methods and resources used by historic home researchers, and how to determine who may be doing the haunting and why. How to Research a Haunted House can be used by homeowners, renters, investors, and it should be in the library of all professional paranormal investigators. Get this unique book at unxmedia.com or amazon.com. That's unxmedia.com or amazon.com. In a world where monsters still walk the earth, one author dares to face them. From the brutal cryptid horror of the Apex Predator series to the Ozark legends that stalk the night in Lakeview Man, from the elite warriors of codename Wild Hunt to the relentless investigations of the Nightmare Hunter and the frontier terror of Dark Frontiers. When the Dead Rise, the Ragnarok Rising saga unleashes pure zombie apocalypse fury. And across the stars, war rages in the Lost Legion and Man's Marauders. And in the realm of myth and steel, the world of Vanguard calls to those born for legend. Cryptids, zombies, sci-fi warfare, epic fantasy. This is the universe of D.A. Roberts.
And folks, we are back, and we're going to jump right back into this. This next segment that we're going to do, this one's a little bit different. Tonight, this section, we're not going to tell a story. This segment, we're going to be discussing. This is a discussion segment, and we want your opinion on this. So let me bring up this image, because it should still allow me to do that without having to mute our microphone. So let me bring this image up, and let's discuss that a little bit. Let's talk about exactly what we saw, because this is very similar to what Robbie and I saw down there at a different time. So what exactly is this? You can definitely see a snout like appendage, and it looks like it's got ears, and you can see a hand on the tree. But what is it? That snout and head is at about 9 feet, maybe a little over. Throughout the video, we saw multiple sets of eye shine. We found dismembered deer with snap bones with no blade marks. We felt watched, not like something just suddenly found us, like something was actively watching us. We were being observed, and we're not saying what this is. We're saying what we think it is, but this is not definitive, folks. We're not going to say this is the be-all, end-all, absolute proof. This is the smoking gun. What we are saying is what this wasn't. This is not a deer. You can look at that and tell that's not a deer. It's not a coyote. If it's a coyote, it's the biggest coyote you ever seen. Coyotes don't stick out on trees at 9 feet up. Rule out feral dogs. I've never seen a dog, other than that someone brought down there, but I've never seen a dog in Joe Bald unattended. Bobcats. That's not a bobcat, because if that was a bobcat sticking out at 9 feet, that hand would be nowhere near the head. It would be right up there by it, because bobcats aren't all that big. It's not an owl. There was no branch for that owl to set on. Owls do not cling to the side of a tree like a woodpecker. This is not an owl. It's not sitting on a branch. It's not a bear. If it was the biggest bear they've ever seen in Missouri, because even big black bears don't reach 9 feet. And that's not a human. So what is it? Robbie?
You know what I think? I think it's 100% Dogman all day long.
That's what I think it is as well. But this is where we're gonna rely on you folks, because we are certainly gonna be dissecting this. So if it's a Dogman, physical traits, upright, digitigrade stance, long canine muzzle, that I can see in the image, forward-facing eyes and the ears, between 7 and 10 feet, 9 feet is definitely between 7 and 9 feet, broad shoulders, that we can't tell because you really can't see the shoulders, long arms ending in clawed hands, and you can see those right there at the bottom of that circle. You can see the claws on the tree. Ears that swivel like a wolf's, that's what it looked like. It looks like the ears are up, like a dog or a wolf. It was watching us quietly. It was peeking out from behind a tree. If there's, and as Nick Valente pointed out, there was at least 5, so that's pack behavior. It was territorial. I think it responded because Steve peed on that tree. It stayed calm. It moved absolutely quietly. So this is why I think this fits a Dogman encounter, because of the way the head looks, the height, the quiet, the multiple watchers, the silent retreat, the feeling of being sized up. Although we didn't, I get that feeling now, but at the time we detected nothing. And that's kind of fits how Dogmans have described being watchers, silent sentinels. They don't run. Sometimes they don't charge, but sometimes they do. They tend to reason things out. They appear at the edge of the light, just like this one did. They often appear near bridges, creeks, and lakes. We were near all of those right there in Joe Bald, and they're associated with dismembering deer and missing heads. So, does what we observed and what we encountered and what these stories so far, does that match Dogman behavior? Robbie?
Yes, very much so.
Okay. Well, I'm leaving the picture up for a reason, so use your words, Robbie.
I know. That's why I said yes, very much so.
Don says, DA, put that AI back up. Okay. Give me just a second to go over to that. Put the AI one back up. Where is it? There we go. There. That's what the AI got out of that image. Although you can tell with an AI, it gave it 3 fingers. But in the image on the left, you can see there's more than 3. So, does this behavior match something that from Dogman encounters? Yes, it does. Why didn't it run? It wasn't afraid of us. It didn't see us as a threat in any way, shape, or form. But the question is, why didn't it attack? Why did it just watch us? Robbie? Would you do me a favor? Would you play? I want you to play devil's advocate here. I want you to present the Gugway case.
Okay.
Because that's what the AI said. The AI flat out said that they thought it was a Gugway, without me prompting it.
Yes, I remember that. All right. Gugway, the brutal primate canine hybrid. Now we shift into the darker possibility. Physical traits from witness accounts. They're bulkier than Dogman, more ape-like body. They do have sort of a canine facial structure, massive upper body strength, often described as wrong or distorted. The behavioral traits are extremely aggressive, very territorial, violent predation. They're known for dismemberment, head removal, bone snapping. Why the deer kill fits the Gugway, obviously we've talked about snap spines, heads being removed without a blade, rib cages being cracked open.
No claw marks.
No claw marks, no drag marks, no tool marks, no feeding pattern. Whatever did that to the deer wasn't feeding, it was killing, which would fit the extreme violence profile of the Gugway. So Gugway are often described as less stealthy but more brutal. They're known for their raw power, not subtlety. They're also associated with headless deer, snap bones, and are sometimes seen in small groups matching the eye shine that we've talked about. Some of the questions that can be raised about do the deer kills themselves push this towards it being a Gugway versus a Dogman? And could the figure in the video be the same thing that killed the deer? And I think
Northwoods, we were both carrying concealed. It might have smelled the gun oil, but we were both carrying concealed. So, Robbie, I personally, I still lean toward Dogman. That was what my gut told me all that time ago. Even though the Gugway, I don't know if you could consider it, coincidence or what, but when I wrote Lakeview Man, I used Gugway.
I mean, there's a lot of similarities, but there's also a lot of differences too. I think you can argue for or against either one. But I think if we're talking about the picture, when you start talking about the violence and the territorialism of the Gugway, I just have to say that if that had been a Gugway behind that tree, y'all would have known it. It wouldn't have been a year later that you'd have found that out.
And that's again why I kind of lean toward the Dogman on that, because I think a Gugway would have made its presence known violently.
Yeah, especially if Nick's right and there was 5 other ones there. 5 Gugway would not stand off and stand back from you and Steve.
They would have got us in the van, whether we were in the van or not. If there'd been 5 Gugway there, we'd have been in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, that's why that's one of my main contentions that I say or stick with, to say that it was a Dogman. There are similarities in both, but there are far more similarities in the Dogman camp than there are in the Gugway camp.
Challenge says, you have the flashlights moving over the area could have caused the safety or the dark to attack. Yeah, we had I had my patrol light. It was a 3500 lumen patrol light, a Streamlight TLR1. No, not TLR1. It wasn't TLR1. It's I can't remember what it was. It's not the gun light. That's a TLR1.
Surefire?
It was a Surefire HL5. HL5.
That's what I have, was a Stinger.
Yeah, I've got one of them somewhere, but that thing I had there at the end was way brighter than my Stinger, even with the LED.
Yeah, well, I couldn't afford much more than a Stinger.
Yeah, the hospital bought it for me when I worked there. I think behavior-wise, Dogman makes more sense. Well, and here's something that's even more disturbing, though. What if Joe Bald is home to more than one type of creature? That is a big area.
And, that's extremely possible. Because we've actually even talked about that. If you think about it, saying that, at different times that we've been there, we felt like, because we've been there in different seasons, and we feel like they might kind of counter rotate around each other. And at some point you might be dealing with Dogman in there, and at some point you might be dealing with something else.
I think it depends on the time of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you and I had our encounter there, it was late fall. It was early November. And it was late fall. It was like late October when Steve and I filmed that in 2018.
Yep. But then in July, when we were there on Combs Ferry, I'm 100% sure that was Bigfoot that night. But,
because of the behavior.
Exactly. But we didn't have anything in Joe Bald at that time. Because that was the time we went to Joe Bald, and it was just like, hey, this is just a normal place. So I think they kind of rotate around each other. If one's in that area, the other group's not there.
Kay Bowers just sent me an image. I'm going to put it up on the screen just to kind of show it off. I don't know the provenance behind this image, but even if it's AI, it's still strikingly similar to what we saw. Interesting. It's doing exactly what the one was doing with us. Peeking out like that. In fact, I wish I could compare those two. I'm going to put this up and then bring this one back up, because it's literally doing the same thing.
Think about this while you're putting those together like that. Think about when me, you, and Noah were there, where we saw the eye shine, it was right beside a tree like that. Just it was doing that exact same thing. We just couldn't.
Nope.
We just didn't see anything but the eye shine.
Hmm.
Exact same thing. About 9 feet off the ground. Matter of fact, even on the same side of the tree. It was on. It was to our left, so it would have been on its right side of the tree, peeking out from its right.
Nick Borer says, "What if they smelled the gun oil and were staying away because they were shot at before?" I would say they easily could have smelled the gun oil, but we were only carrying 9, so I don't think either of us was going to do much damage. Oh, Don Donaldson said DA could be underground thing there, like Jessica said she saw remote viewed. I think that explains what those power boxes are for. I think there is something under Joe Bald. We've just never found any possible entrance or even any sign of like ventilation.
But we did.
I would like to go back out there and spend the day just walking around.
But if you think about it, though, we did discuss that theory because you said something about all those old houses that are right around that area that are pretty much abandoned, but nobody does anything with them. Because remember we were talking, I said that would be a perfect place to have a hidden entrance to some of these places. Just an old house. It's just there that nobody thinks anything about. It's just an old abandoned house, but basically it's just a cover for an entrance or an exit.
Right. So let's have a quick show of hands, everybody. Everybody sound off. Do you think it's a Bigfoot? Do you think it's a Dogman? Do you think it's a Gugway? Do you think it's something else? I'm coming down on the side of what we encountered being a Dogman. And that night that Robbie and I encountered, I think it was the same thing. I think it was the same creature.
Yep.
Looks like most people are saying Dogman. Now I'm going to throw that picture back up. Let y'all decide for yourselves. And then you throw that right next to it, and it's literally doing the same thing. Do I wish we'd have been using better camera equipment? Yes. But again, we didn't go down there for that. We went down there to shoot a promo for a book. Arlen says, you'd be surprised how you can camo an entrance. It looks like by far and away most people are saying Dogman. And that's really what I think it was as well. So the question is, why Joe Bald?
Well,
it is a big empty area, admittedly, but there are also houses nearby.
But if they do have some kind of facility, maybe that's why you don't see them all the time there. I mean, you can ask that question about any national park, that if the government knows about these things, why do they let people go in? Because if they know about them, but you can't.
Just a guy? Yes, it is a peninsula.
You can't operate under the assumption that our government is so benevolent and,
lots of words I'd use to describe our government. Benevolent is not one of them.
Exactly. That's my point. I mean, you got to kind of operate under different assumptions.
Challenge. It is technically kind of close to Combs Ferry, but it's on the opposite side of the lake and a few miles away as the crow flies. But it is in the same section of the lake. But Table Rock is a big lake. Miss Lene says maybe they've been there longer than humans have. I would definitely agree with that. Because the Pine Knot says, because there's delicious two-legged hikers.
Also true.
Northwood says there are what appear to be houses in the middle of nowhere in Montana and Wyoming, but those are surrounded by fence that's topped with razor wire and has armed security inside. Chris Artigue says, can you imagine the questions that would come up if the government just stopped letting people in the parks? Oh, yeah. Nick Boris says, best way to hide something is put it in plain sight.
Also very true.
Lead laced, you're probably correct about that. Arlen says, my brother was an artist. There was a crawl space in his room that he camouflaged. You could not tell where it was. I wonder if the people who bought it know it's there. W. Leonard Athas says, I spent 43 years in law enforcement, 34 with the U.S. Department of Justice. The government can swallow an elephant and gag on a gnat. Lone Queen says maybe the parks get much of the funding for facilities from the tourists. Yeah, where's all that money going?
Well,
Miss Linnea is absolutely correct. This channel is for entertainment purposes only.
But we've said it before. This is a $33 billion a year industry that the national parks bring in. That's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. So, going back to this image right here. This one still changed everything. This started our path of digging into the abandoned campgrounds. This is what led us to the theory, the peninsula theory. This is what led us to Combs Ferry. This is what led us to Big Bay. Heck, this is even what led us to Drury-Mincy, because we started noticing a pattern of closed campgrounds. So this is the one photo, one image, the one still that can trace back to 60% of our theories, right, Robbie?
Yeah, I would say that's a safe number to put on it. Probably more, but yeah,
maybe even more. Because while I was a firm believer in cryptids before this, while I'd had some interesting encounters as a kid, I didn't have a visual sighting. This was a paradigm shift for me, because it went from being I believe they're out there to we caught something on camera.
Yeah, I feel you on that. Having that, it's one thing to believe, and even having the sighting that I had when I was so young. Even though I still, and I'm speaking like before, I started getting on the show and everything, before I really started talking about it and getting into it and things like that. Even though I still believed it, there's still times when you're like, well, did I just imagine that? Did I really see that kind of stuff? Am I just crazy? You have those thoughts. And then when you get into this and you start seeing stuff like that, and you have the encounters and experiences that you and I and Doc and Noah and Steve have all had, it's satisfying, and it's reassuring to have that confirmation,
right?
Because it goes, believing in yourself is one thing, but when you get that validation from things like that, it's just like I said, reading these accounts tonight validates your video that you and Steve did.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. Don Donaldson, so maybe they control them from underground. Hide is why they never attacked. Maybe. Yeah. K. Bowers says a fine line between believing and knowing. D-Cat says the same thing. Yeah, and when you look at stuff like this, it's easy to dismiss. This is just, we're just making this up. This is a load of crap. But I'm not making that up. That was legitimately in a video that we didn't know it was there. And the part that I still find the most compelling about this, the part that really sticks with me, is just how close we got to that tree and didn't know it was there.
Yeah.
That's the part that still makes me kind of really stop and think about it, because, like I said, I was still a cop on active duty then. I was trained to observe. I was paranoid. Ask Robbie; he knows what it's like. I looked for a threat everywhere I went, and I walked right up to that tree and never felt a thing. And that really bugs me.
Yeah, like I said, that validation always just like they were all pointing out, believing and knowing that there's that fine line between, you can say, well, I believe this, I believe this, I believe this, but once you get that validation that, yeah, I was right, it's just, it's hard to describe if you hadn't, because just like Doc, Doc believed these things existed, but he had not had an encounter.
Then he had the thermal don't lie moment.
Yeah, he had his paradigm shift moment. He ground through a few gears for he finally threw it into third, I think.
Roxanne, that's entirely possible, because without a doubt, if it had wanted us, it would have got us. We were so close to that thing and so lightly armed, we could not have stopped it. Plain and simple, if it had wanted us, it would have got us. Hillary says, I get the feeling that creature was a juvenile. I don't know why. If it's a juvie at 9 feet tall, that's a big dang juvie.
It's a big youngin', as Doc would
That
say.
is a big youngin'. Knightley says, D and Robbie, were y'all scared, curious, or confused about what you saw or heard? I tell you, that night in Joe Bald with me and Robbie, I wasn't scared until we were already leaving the park. That's when then the adrenaline faded and I started feeling fear. But at the time we were in there, I was just so keyed up. I mean, I was telling Robbie, hey, maybe you ought to fall back. I think this thing's pulling us in. Now, had we followed it into the woods, could be a different story. But I really didn't like start actually feeling afraid of anything until we were already out of the park. And that adrenaline started to bleed off.
Well,
Leonard, I now carry a 1911 when I go. Loaded with some pretty heavy duty rounds. Northwood says if it came out of the trees, the vehicle might have disappeared quickly. Well, the girls were in the back. If we'd heard the van fire up, that means they were seeing something long before we did. K. Bowers, yeah. I would definitely throw your OODA loop in a spin.
yep. Definitely interrupt that OODA loop.
That it definitely did. I tell you want to see an interrupted OODA loop. I wish that I had video when Robbie found that track between his legs. Yeah, the gears were definitely spinning there. Like, holy crap. Doyle says, good night all. Work comes early in the morning. Great show. Thank you much, Doyle. You have a great night. Thank you for being here. So as we're winding this show down, because we're well past our 2 hour mark, as we're winding this show down, again, I'm going to leave this all to you folks. Let you guys decide for yourselves what we captured on video. We captured something. I can tell you what it's not with a degree of certainty, but I can't tell you what it is with any degree of certainty. I can tell you what I believe it is. I can tell you what I felt like it was. But at the time we shot that footage, we didn't know it was there. We didn't know for almost a year.
Raj, I don't have a chest rig, so I can't answer that question for you. That would be a Doc question, unless DA knows.
What was the question?
Roger want to know what's the best chest carry rig. I don't have one, so
I don't have one. I'm
Doc?
looking at getting one, but that'd be a better question for Doc. K. Bauer says, Roger, Gunfighters Inc. Hillary says, Roger, just use duct tape. Stamps, like Bruce Willis used in Die Hard. I want to get a chest rig for my 357 and keep my 1911 on my hip. But, like I said, as we start winding things down, folks, in the end, it is up to you what you guys believe. As Kolchak the Night Stalker says, judge for yourself its believability, and then, no matter where you may be, ask yourself, could it happen here? And at the time we were down there shooting that video, we weren't expecting anything like that. Well, our whole intention was to shoot a short promo for the Lakeview Man. And instead, the Lakeview Man found us.
Yep.
So maybe the Lakeview Man really is a dog man. I know that's what we found I think that's what we found in Joe Bald that night. To me, I believe it. I know what we got on that camera. I know I've seen it. I've been to that area. We've had other encounters there. I truly believe that what we encountered was a dog man. Now, again, we leave that up to you. We don't claim to be experts. We're not presenting this as the be-all, end-all smoking gun. We're not claiming we solved the dogman legend. We're just presenting the evidence to you and let you guys make the opinions yourselves. But I hope you guys are at least on the same page as us when we tell you that we firmly believe what we saw. And we've got the evidence to back it up.
Yeah, like I said, I think we've shown a lot of cooperation between the video that y'all shot with these encounters that you found in the same area. So, I mean, I know what we believed and what we have thought, but that there again, that's just more that validation and that quiet assurance. It's just like, yeah, see, we're not crazy. We're not stupid. We saw it.
And for anybody that thinks that we're just a couple of talking heads on this podcast, we're happy to show you the places we've been. Ask several people who are in the chat with us tonight who have gone with us on some of these. This isn't just us talking about cryptids. We've spent our time on the ground, and we still do more time on the ground. Boots on the ground, as they say.
Yep.
And this was definitely a boots on the ground, eye-opening experience. So, we're going to leave you guys with the Lakeview Man. And I think, without a doubt, that we can very safely present this to you as the real Lakeview Man. Make of it what you will. Robbie, we've already heard from Doc tonight about Dark Angel Medical. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Scalawag Tactical as we start winding things down?
Scallywag Tactical, another one of our great affiliates from a veteran, another veteran-owned company. Craig and his crew, excellent, excellent, excellent blades. There's not a thing that you would need a knife for that you can't find the right blade on that website to meet your need and suit your needs. You're not gonna. Some of the blades are kind of pricey. Some of them are really good price, but they're all really high quality. So go check them out. Tell them we sent you. Use code DA Roberts 10 at checkout and get yourself 10% off. I don't know that if the blemish blades are ever going to come back. It hadn't been on there in a long time.
In a while.
So, but there again, if they ever shows back up, that discount code stacks on top of that too. So that me and DA both have gotten a lot of our blades off the blemish blade stuff. But they don't make the gunner's mate anymore, but the Redonda, and they make it in the Tanto point and the spear point. I'm gonna tell you, I've had a lot of blades in my hand. This is one of the most solid, best feeling blades that I've ever put in my hand, and I still up. My gunner's mate is in my gear bag in the back of my truck, so I carry my gunner's mate everywhere. But this is a very close second. They've got some really good blades, and that's one thing that you really, really need is a good blade. You can do a lot if you've got a good blade. So
exactly.
Go see them. Tell them we sent you. DA Roberts 10 at checkout.
And don't forget to check out the good folks over at SigwoArms.com. Sigwo is a local firearms manufacturer. They make everything, just anything you can imagine. And if you want anything from ammunition to whisper pickles, those are your folks to talk to. They've got great deals every day. They've fantastic deals on ammunition. I bought 200 rounds of 9mm hollow point for $54. That's a steal for hollow point. They make some fantastic firearms. They are the ones, if you want a codename Wild Hunt or Dark Frontiers logo etched in the receiver or on the barrel of anything you choose, those are the guys that can do it. They're the ones that are licensed to do that. And check them out. Don't forget for Sigwo to use discount code Bigfoot5 to get 5% off your order. They're another veteran-owned company, and we're proud to support them. Before we head out, though, Robbie, tell us a little bit about the books. Why don't you start with Miss Luca?
Luca, who is DA and mine, very, very, very talented cover artist, also writes her own books. She writes in the same genre and style that DA and I do. A lot of law enforcement-based cryptid stuff. Her character, Nicole Beretti, is an excellent character. If you like the characters DA and I write, you're going to love her stuff. I just finished Savage Rogue. Getting ready to start on Red Eyes, I think, next. She's really, really good. Writes really good books. I think she's got 11 or 12 out. I
thought it was 14, but I could be wrong.
Well, she's working on her latest one that might make it 14, but I think the other night when she was on, somebody asked her, I think she said 11 or 12. So this new one may be 14 or 13, I mean. So anyway, she's got over 10 out.
Fantastic writer.
Yeah. And like I said, if you like the last couple of covers on mine and DA's books, they came from her. She does our covers, and she does a really good job at them. So go check her out. Give her some love. Go check out mine and DA's books. Well, you can find Luca's books either lucatjacobs.com or on Amazon. You can find DA's books at daroberts.net or on Amazon, and you can find my books on Amazon. DA's working on 38 now. This will be 38. Leviathan Down's going to be the 38th one coming out. Is that still the plan?
That's the plan.
And I've been back and forth on which one I'm going to put out first, but I think I've made up my mind, and I've decided that I'm going to put Shadow Hunters out first, which is going to be the East Coast division of the Wild Hunt. It's going to be Shadow Hunters Project Manticore, and I'm about 37,500 words into it. Just about to start chapter 14. So look for that in the next week or two, maybe by the end of January. Hopefully sooner than that, but definitely.
And
by the
all of you alpha readers, be looking for an update tonight. I'll be sending out to the alpha readers to check out the most recent update. Codename Wild Hunt Leviathan Down is just about 30,000 words and climbing. So about halfway there. Anyway, Robbie, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, go check our books out. Leave us comments. Leave us reviews, because in the indie author world, reviews matter. If you like the book, like DA said, he says it all the time. You don't have to write, a paragraph. If you just write a good book, if you liked it and enjoy it, help us out that way. Because once it's 100 reviews before they start pushing it, the algorithm.
At least 50. 50 is where they start. At 100, they actually include it in the newsletters.
Yeah, and what was it, 2 months ago that we both showed up in that horror quarterly thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Cryptid Quarterly.
Cryptid Quarterly, yeah. A couple months ago, well, Luca too. All three of us actually showed up in the Cryptid Quarterly. I think I got honorable mention for. Was it Howl the Night Wolf that got honorable mention? I think
it was Howl the Night Wolf.
Yeah.
I just checked. Absaroka's is at number 4 in Western horror, so it slipped a little bit.
Yeah. But and usually Luca and I are both in. We both write in the what category is that we folklore. Luke and I are usually like all around each other with our books in that category. DA's got Western horror sewed up with Dark Frontiers. I think at one time, when you had 5 or the first 4, I think like 1, 2, 3, 4, and maybe 5 or 5th if you had them.
I'm gonna go look and see if that's still the case.
I mean, you at one time you had like the top 5 spots with the Dark Frontiers books. So go help us out.
I'm gonna look. Let me Devil the Absarokas is the Dark Frontiers. Let's go to Western horror fiction. Okay, I'm Devil the Absarokas is at number 4 in Western horror. Cry of the Wendigo is number 16. First Hunt is 17. And Howl of the Wolfman is 19. So I'm in the top. Every one of the Nightmare Hunter books are in the top 20 in Western horror currently. Demon of Palador is at 21. So every one of them are in the top 21.
See?
So that's awesome. But there's a lot of good names in there too.
Yep.
Nick Morris is DA, the wife read Heart of Iron. She likes it, but you may have some very good explaining to do about the ending. Yeah, that ending made some folks unhappy. Thank you, Arlen. Appreciate that, brother. But yeah, you can find all of our books on Amazon.com. You can find Lucas at lucatjacobs.com. You can find mine at daroberts.net. And once I finally get the website done, you'll be able to find everybody on the nightmarehunter.com. So that's coming soon. Trying to think, is there anything else we need to cover, brother?
I think that's it, other than our send off.
Okay. Well, folks, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We've had a great time. At the end of the night, I always want to mention the 22 a Day Foundation. We lose 22 veterans a day to suicide, and that is unacceptable. Although they're saying the numbers may be as low as 17 a day now. But let's get that number down to 0 where it needs to be. Check on your friends and family that are first responders. Check on your loved ones that have served in a uniform, doesn't matter what capacity. Let them know you're thinking about them. Let them know you care, because they should not be fighting those demons alone. Don't let the hard days win. Reach out, check on your battle buddies, check on your friends, and again, let's get 22 a day down to 0. And we've been ending that with a toast. And Robbie, you want to do the toast tonight?
I sure will. Everybody, no matter what you're drinking, raise a glass with us from the old Irish drinking song, The Parting Glass. But since it fell into my lot that I should rise and you should not, I'll gently rise and softly call. Good night and joy be to you all. Good night, Slanja. We'll see you Saturday.
See you Saturday. Slanja.
Plains, the winds are howling, saloon doors swinging, shadows growling. 3 lawmen stand tough as rawhide. Yeah, Doc and DA, nothing can abide. Whiskey shots and poker faces, staring down the darkest spaces in this town where legends roam. These boys bring justice, sending evil home. Cryptid lawmen, wild and free, hunting monsters for all to see. With silver bullets and grit of steel, they fight the darkness, make the demons squeal. From dusty canyons to moonlit plains, justice rides with wind and rains. Cryptid lawmen, a fearsome sight, standing tall against the endless night. Jed's a howler, claws of steel. Doc's a biter, makes the devil real. But DA's a shifty one, a shape-shifting soul. Can turn to anything, takes any form, takes control. Tonight the chupacabras come to town, sucking the life from all around. But these lawmen, they ain't afraid. They'll face the darkness unafraid. Cryptid lawmen, wild and free, hunting monsters for all to see. With silver bullets and grit of steel, they fight the darkness, make the demons squeal. From dusty canyons to moonlit plains, justice rides with wind and rain. Cryptid lawmen, a fearsome sight, standing tall against the endless night. Full moon rises, bat wings flap, the air grows cold, a chill and trap. But these lawmen, they're ready to fight underneath the pale moonlight. Jed and Doc transform with a howl. DA shifts, becomes a night